In this video, I'd like to talk about the Night of the Museum movies. I recently saw the third and potentially, though not necessarily, but most likely, final chapter in what should be a decent trilogy if they don't write any more. The plot picks up where the second movie left off, with absolutely no continuity from the second movie called Bat, and a ton of continuity from the first movie. So basically you could watch the first movie and the third movie, skip the second movie, and not be too overly confused. The character of Amelia Earhart from the second movie doesn't come back and isn't mentioned, and they don't talk about their adventures in Washington, D.C., nor do any of the Washington, D.C. characters appear in the third movie. The third movie is all of the same cast from the first movie, all of the same jokes from the first movie, and the small tiny bit of continuity held over from the second movie is relatively well explained at the beginning of the third. So basically, if you're trying to watch the Night at the Museum trilogy, the second movie can be cut out of your viewing experience and not missed whatsoever. Although if you do watch the second movie, you can appreciate the very few callbacks that the third movie builds up upon. The third movie goes like this. It starts where the second one ended, with all of the exhibits in the museum alive at night, and the museum is now open at night so that the public can enjoy the living exhibits. The fact that the exhibits are brought to life by magic is explained away as the exhibits being some form of mysterious technology combined with actors and special effects. People don't generally believe in magic, and they're more inclined to accept the special effects explanation. The museum is getting ready to open up a new exhibit on the constellations, so we get to see even more special effects in a movie that already has quite a bit of them. As the tablet that gives all of the museum's characters life begins to fade and corrode and weaken, the exhibits are either randomly going completely haywire and acting out of control, or they are randomly freezing up and returning to solid form. It's a race against the clock, as the group has to go to London to discover why the magic isn't working anymore and how to fix it. We get to re-encounter Dick Van Dyke's character and the other two old men who were in the first movie. Dick Van Dyke has a huge flashback at the start of the movie that sort of rips off, or possibly homages, I don't know which, Indiana Jones. This sets up the idea that Dick Van Dyke's character was present when the tablet that gives everybody magical life was originally discovered, and therefore he knows about the magic and where to go to get more information. And the exhibits have to go to the museum in London to talk to exhibits that are housed in the museum in London. So the main character, the security guard, gets a little conversation with his boss and gets some of the exhibits transferred to the London Museum. And the main characters stow away so that they're all present in this movie, not just some of them. Once they're in the London Museum, the London Museum exhibits come to life and we get introduced to new characters. More crazy shenanigans happen, and just as we're getting the solution for how to fix the tablet, we get a sudden ally turned antagonist who tries to steal the tablet for his own purposes. And they have to get it back, fix the spell, and rejuvenate the tablet to keep the magic going. Then we have an ending that looks like a spin-off for a fourth movie with none of the original cast, but is simultaneously also an end to the movie trilogy if they decide not to do that spin-off. Everything else that happens along the way is par for the course, but we also build brilliantly upon some of the visuals that were established in the second movie, like the ability to enter paintings, which was present in the second movie but not the first movie, and paintings are present again in the third movie. It's basically a wash, rinse, and repeat of whatever worked in the previous movies, repeat in the third movie, only change the location each time you do another movie, so that you get slightly different exhibits each time. I'm not particularly sure how these museums look in real life compared to how they looked in the movie, but that's not too important. There was also a subplot in this about the father accepting the son as the son has grown up and become independent and wants to make his own decisions, and the son accepting the fact that the father has years of experience and has better suggestions than the impulsive ideas that the son wants to do with his newfound freedom. It's a very typical plot, but with a few nice little twists, and it doesn't get too cliche, and it doesn't get too in the way of the real story that everyone came to see, which is museum pieces brought to life. This is also one of the last on-screen appearances of Robin Williams. Will be missed greatly. If there's one thing I have to say about Night at the Museum overall, is that while I enjoy the movies, each movie is basically the same movie, just rehashed in different locations. But as long as that same repeated plot can entertain me, I'm perfectly okay with that. There are a couple of logic flaws along the way, however, like the fact that every single time we see one of these museums, there's one and only one security guard ever to guard them. The museums do not have other guards present, they do not have security cameras present, they do not have other people present. There is never other witnesses. No matter how populated the area is, there's never other witnesses to the antics going on inside of these museums when the exhibits come to life. All of this craziness and noise and destruction and conflict happens in each movie, and only one guy ever sees it happen. The other flaw of the movie is the tablet of Akhmun-Ra itself, the Egyptian mystical artifact that brings all of the exhibits to life. First of all, of course, it's Egyptian. Everything mystical and magical in movies is always Egyptian. The other thing about the tablet is the way it works different in each movie. each movie that we see this tablet again and again, it's doing something different for different reasons. It's a very inconsistent MacGuffin. In one movie, it brings to life just what's in the museum. In another movie, it brings to life everything in Washington, D.C. And it also summons demons from another realm. And in the third movie, it brings to life the stuff in the museum, as well as the other statues in the city. And then there's a whole list of things that it doesn't bring to life, which it should. So it gets a little inconsistent as to how this thing works. But overall, I find these movies enjoyable. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, and good night.